dangerous around here. Welcome back. Wash the Walk-Ons podcast. Dr. Justin Lima back in the building.
What's up, y'all? Hey, real quick, everybody, I've had a good amount of people come up to me, like the jiu-jitsu guy, somebody at the pickleball courts the other day. So everybody that comes up
Really?
is just hi. It's, you know what? It's really, it's nice. I appreciate it, especially to a state that is not where I'm from. I'm from Massachusetts, but I love this state, and darn it, I love this town of Ankeny. So when people come up, I really appreciate it. It means a lot.
Ankeny's cool, man.
It is.
Ankeny's a good spot. I feel like both Ankeny and Waukee are
Yes.
they're similar. They're both over the last 10 years, they've always been like on those top 10 small towns to live in the country, like biggest growing towns. Both suburbs have 2 high schools and are working on a third.
Y'all just bought the land.
Yep. I didn't buy the land.
Yeah,
They did.
They did.
It is relevant as like, the kids get up into school. You're like, which one of these are we going to go to? Like,
Yeah.
For us, it's going to end up actually being probably the original, just because
Okay.
it then splits the town again. And we're kind of right. We live 800 meters from the original Waukee High School. So
Nice.
yeah. So,
Kids
yeah,
will walk to school. That means a lot as a parent.
it really does. You know that,
Mhm.
like it's that kind of shit you don't think about when you're like 23 years old. You're like,
Welcome to being 30.
it's so dumb. It's so dumb. It's like, man, if my kid could walk to school, I just really want him to be safe, The stuff that you care about, it shifts so much. No, it's good. It's a good town. My parents live in Ankeny. I don't know if I've said that before, but that's where like all my extended family are. So we're back again for a 5-10-5 show. Haven't got to use this overlay in a while. So this is fun. This is good. Hopefully Coach Lima isn't too busy during the season. We can do what we did again last year and have a strength conditioning based short show each week. What's that hat that you're wearing?
Hawken Dynamics. It's just apparently like nowadays people like hats that it's spelt upside down, but Hawken Dynamics, they do force plates. They do a device called the True Strength, but their stuff's legit.
Today we're going to talk about, so it does not qualify for today's show.
It does because people that don't utilize it are kind of not doing exactly what they should do.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. Today's show topic, anybody who clicked on the episode or is watching on the YouTube and sees it above the video, is, for lack of a better term, the dumbest shit in strength and conditioning.
Amen.
And this was sparked by, as we mentioned at the top of the show, Wisconsin. I'm just going to share the video.
Out in Wisconsin.
I don't know what they're doing.
It's the worst part. And like, look at this guy right here. He's like gassed out. What is he like? What conditioning does he really get? Like, that is awful. Like, look
dude,
at this.
They couldn't have zeroed in on a worse dude.
Yeah, like okay, media team. Find somebody that's like actually doing it better.
Right.
Like, come on.
So I'm sure
this further goes to what we talked about before with Wisconsin is not gritty anymore. They're not Wisconsin anymore.
No, they're definitely not the Wisconsin. Like, and I don't know if anybody, the sentiment that I've seen online is like, no one's even trying to claim that they are. Even the fans who love Wisconsin, they bleed whatever those specific red and white colors are. Like even they are like, we fucked up. Like, like maybe Paul Chris wasn't like the best, but like we certainly went a direction that we did not want to go, which is a caution that I've tried to put out there. Kevin and I both have tried to put out there to the fire KF, move on from KF crowd. It's like, understandably, not everyone is perfect. Everyone has their flaws, but if you go to something else, you're asking for, in Wisconsin's case, a complete 180 of their culture, of their brand.
It's a really good point. Nebraska did the same thing when they moved on from Bo Pelini after the 2014 when they beat us and they were like, oh, 9-3. Like they've been a dumpster fire ever since.
They're still climbing out of it. Like that was 2000 and Pelini beat us in 20.
That was 14.
14.
So we're 11
that was
years
last year.
Yeah.
They brought in Mike Riley. That was horrible. They brought in Scott Frost, who's now back in the media the last couple of days with his his response to what'd you learn from the Nebraska uh, time, and he just said, "Don't take the wrong job." And people are like, okay. Like, people are just like, what the hell? Um, they finally have Matt Rule, who I think is a good coach and has taken a few other programs up out of the depths. Wasn't able to do good stuff over in where was he professionally? Was he in Kansas?
Carolina, that was a
Yeah,
dumpster
Carolina.
fire.
That was tough. Some guys just aren't professional coaches.
Correct.
It's just a different thing. But they're finally like back around that 500, projected to potentially win 7, 8, 9 games, somewhere in that range. And it's been 11 years. So
Good point. Be careful what you wish for, Hawk fans.
so in this video that I played at the beginning, some of you are listening, some of you saw it. A lot of you saw it on Twitter when it originally came out. They have their weight room fucking decorated like it's Halloween with caution tape and that mesh. Did you see that in the
Well,
background?
and that they're not actually just going under. I thought they just had construction going on.
Okay. I didn't know if that was
Like,
part of it
I'm
or
hoping that maybe they have some construction going on and they're just utilizing one part of the facility.
I hope to God that that's it because
Because if they're doing the other thing, that's even worse.
let's assume that there's just like renovations going on.
We'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
Nonetheless, what's going on is whoever's taking this video is they're following Coach Fickle around. He's in the weight room, and it says Coach Fickle surveying the squat fest floor.
They're not even squatting.
So I don't know what that means. They're not squatting. What they are doing is they have a bunch of punching bags laying on the ground, and the guys have gloves on, and they're just hunched over, just like doing what I guess to like a person who doesn't understand strength conditioning, like what, oh, that looks really hard. They're just going all out on a punching bag, which I suppose could wind you. It could, it
I
could,
mean, it can't. You know what else can win you? Doing a lot of things. Going up and down the stairs a lot of times. I'll nerd out on it and then you go ahead. I'll do this for like 120 seconds, 2 minutes, and then you bring it back down to reality. But like the easiest way to explain this to everybody is yes, they're punching, like you said, they're punching bags and they're getting tired and they're doing these things from mat drills where it's just random, stupid, tough things that are going to make people more mentally tough. And I want to remind everybody from prior episodes, mental toughness is task specific. Right now, it's July 2025. In the news recently was that Coast Guard guy that jumped out and saved over like 200 people. He's
yes,
mentally tough. It was his first assignment.
so sick.
Okay. But you don't want him trying to catch a Hail Mary at the end of the game. When DeAndre Hopkins high pointed that ball, sorry, Micah, you don't want that Coast Guard swimmer doing it because
Shit, was that
mental
on Micah?
toughness, it was.
Oh,
Mental toughness is task specific. So I don't want D Hop trying to go save people in a Coast Guard, swim, but I also don't want that Coast Guard guy to try to high point the ball. I don't want DeAndre Hopkins to try to pitch to Shohei Ohtani or vice versa. It's all task specific. So them punching random things, sure, it could get them in shape, but then you have to ask yourself, what is the most effective way to get into shape to do the thing that you're going to do? Because we just talked about, okay, he lives in Waukee, I live in Ankeny. Okay, there's a lot of different ways to get here. Are you going to drive? Are you going to fly? Are you going to walk? You could crawl, but there's plenty of ways to skin a cat and plenty of ways to get here. You're going to take the most efficient route for yourself. Why, as strength coaches and sport coaches, do we not do the exact same thing for our athletes? It's just like the misnomer, how you do anything is how you do everything. Wrong. It is not. Stop with these sport coaches and strength coaches telling athletes and making them feel bad about things that most sport coaches don't even take care of themselves. So that's my rant. You can try to dumb it down.
I, it takes me to a place. The first thing I think of is eh, it's a video of Coach Fickle walking around, and I wonder if is this his idea of
Probably.
his idea of mental toughness? Like, is this coming from this? If you're splitting them apart, he sure is at the top, but he's on the sport coach side of things. He's a football guy. Debatable if you're a Wisconsin fan over the last couple of years, but he's a football guy. He's not the strength guy. There's been some crossovers. Doyle actually, I think, was an offensive line coach,
Yeah.
and then obviously is more well known for the strength conditioning stuff. But oftentimes, I think there's a disconnect between those two staffs on like what is effective. And Tell me.
The disconnect is the fact that it's the sport coach just telling the strength coach to do it because the
Yeah.
sport coach sees somebody else doing it. So all this is regurgitated fourth quarter stuff from Nick Saban at Alabama that look Fickle is on the hot seat feeling, oh, at the very least, I can say we did the same stuff that Saban and them did.
Look how hard we're working.
Correct. And at the end of the day, I love this quote. I got to sit next to a guy named Bill Gillespie who benched over 1,000 pounds raw. You think about that for a second.
Jesus Christ.
Over 1,000 pounds raw, no steroids because he was in like an actual competition that would test you. Anyways, he and
That's
I were
so
talking.
stupid, 1,000 pounds.
We flew on the same flight from Des Moines to New Orleans. No, Charlotte to New Orleans for NSCA coaches conference in January. We talked for like 2 hours, had a podcast without filming it, right? It was awesome. He was a strength coach in professional sport. He worked for the Seahawks. He's worked in a lot of places. And he was awesome because he'll like call it as it is. He's like, listen, I tell the coaches, like, listen, you bring me somebody that's bad at football and I get them strong. They're still going to be bad at football. He goes, here's a good analogy for you, coach, because it's not as physical. You give me a bunch of bad bowlers. I get them strong. They still are going to be bad bowlers that are strong.
It might be
So the same
worse.
thing with Wisconsin. If you're not bringing in the same caliber athlete, like that's the name of the game. And I'll never forget what Keir Whittam Flat, the guy who started Strength Coach Network and friend of mine, the more people talk about things besides winning, the less they do. So if you're seeing people talk about things that are not actually winning, that means they don't win a lot.
I really like that a lot. I like that a lot. Devil's advocate, there's still a place and a lane that's very important for the strength conditioning. So it's not important, right? Like obviously there's
Correct. And we're important, but remember, be important. But like I just said before, the famous expression is as many roads lead to Rome. Okay, but let's take the most efficient and effective.
Yeah.
Or there's many ways to skin a cat. You're right. I could skin a cat with a spoon, but that's not kind to the cat or to me. Why don't I actually do it the right way? You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
if you want it, like you get it, you understand energy systems, you know, aerobic system and
Yeah.
lactate and creatine phosphate. So why not try to do something that's a little bit more specific? I wrote about this on X the other day or Twitter, whatever people want to call it, but like stealing principles from CrossFit has something that strength coaches have not done yet. We're more than willing to steal from powerlifting and track and field and strongman, but for some reason, the idea of using EMOM or AMREP within, and using barbells and lifting as conditioning is something that coaches are still hesitant of. And I really don't understand why. So it's like, steal some of that, do some of that lactate suck work to get what you want out of it, instead of putting lipstick on a pig and having these dudes punching bags on the ground, which probably cost you more money. And you're buying stuff that you don't need. Versus like, and think about that from that perspective. You
Dude,
have
that's
assistant
crazy.
strength coaches. You have assistant strength coaches that are going to be like, when I was working at Iowa and I was the number 3, I was behind Doyle and Ray. So at most I was making 55, all of us. We weren't making a ton of money. You can look it up now.
Loaded.
Right. And nowadays I think they're barely making 100K. And then you're going to watch this organization drop at least half of your salary on some dumb equipment.
Can you imagine?
I can, because when I was at Towson, we dropped 25K and I was making 80 on some program thing called The Program. I was just like, really? How about like, or my assistants that make $15 an hour? How about we pay them?
Because one of those assistant coaches was tasked with wherever they bought that from. They're like, hey, yeah, we want 30 punching bags, get gloves for everybody, and they loaded that all into the cart. And they're like, they had to press fucking buy, check out on $40,000 worth of dumbass equipment, and that's their salary.
Yeah.
Unreal.
And then you know who had to unload it? The interns who make no money.
Yeah.
But you can't buy them a parking pass or let them have a little bit of money to live.
Why is that? I know we've talked about it, but why is that?
I don't understand. And so somebody posted about it.
Maybe
shout out to Kaz, Coach Kaz down at TCU. I visited them last summer. I'm friends with them and Ryan Jackson and TB and Rev and Shauna and Coach Dawson. And some strength coach posted something, made a video about like how interns have to pay for a parking pass, but don't get paid to work there.
Unreal.
And I was like, this is stupid. Like, you have some strength coaches making $800,000 a year and they're not helping their interns out. And somebody replied to me and said, Coach Kaz at TCU treated us. He's like, he never made life easy on us, treated like equals. took care of us for paying, would pay for coaches to fly if they were going to travel with the team. He's like, always took care of us. So there are exceptions to the rule, and shout out Kaz and TCU football stuff.
I now that you mention it, and I would never come after somebody else's finances, but like, you know, what Ray makes and what all these head guys make, it's out there, it's public. Like
Correct.
it's a million plus, right? They're making $1 million. As been more into the world of like a actual professional career and like I'm an adult, like right, I have two kids now. I'm in the middle of the newborn stage for this. Like I'm fully into the adult world. It is more and more evident. Like the more that you foster that giving back, the more you do for others, it just returns tenfold for you. If I'm a guy making $1 million, if I want to create the best outside of like how well you actually are teaching and instructing and kind of giving the tools of strength conditioning. Outside of that, to make the best intern program in the country, slide your guys 10 grand. Every intern gets 10 grand.
And get smart about it business wise, because you can write it off instead of
Yeah.
like you can just be really, really strategic and smart about it.
Because now, even though it's already a hyper competitive industry and people will line up to be a free unpaid intern, now imagine if people know that, oh, the head strength guy, he provides his own personal $10,000 stipend if you're a guy underneath him. Now imagine the quality you're gonna have any guy on earth that's gonna be you're gonna get the best candidates.
I'll one up you on that. Do that on top of what the NSCA does. But here's again, you want to talk about something stupid like Iowa football, and I've talked about this before. They blackballed the NSCA because the NSCA tried to hold Doyle accountable for what happened with the Rhabdo. They've ignored them, which is a problem because the NSCA will actually pay people $10,000 for a semester to go work for free somewhere.
Really?
So imagine if this person, all they have to do is they apply for it. If they select it and they have Iowa football or wherever, I'm in there. So if they wanted to come with work with me at Goldfinch, they get 10K for living. Now imagine if you, the head strength coach, slide them an extra couple money as well. Now you've got people lining up to work for you. You have good quality interns, which
Yep.
ultimately helps your athletes. Your athletes get better. Now your program gets better. You're winning more games.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe, and this wasn't even on my list, but like intern culture and structuring is potentially some of the dumbest shit in strength conditioning.
Yeah.
You brought up a point that I did want to bring up, which is the Rhabdo thing that happened at Iowa with Doyle
Mm.
and that specific workout. We've had a couple guys on that have talked about their memories of when that happened.
Okay.
Um, I'm not even sure how to classify that, but workouts like that.
There's
Um,
such a good time and a place. Like, so I'm not like, let's caveat and start this with giving athletes rhabdo bad,
bad, bad.
bad, bad. Have a book down here about it. It gets talked about a lot. Time and place is everything. And so this is where I'll say shout out to the NSCA and the CSCCA for coming together on this. They put together a joint consensus statement on like when you come back from, they call it transition periods. So
Yep.
when your athletes are away for a while and you're detrained, the problem isn't people could say, okay, it's what's the science behind it? It's German volume training, the 10 by 10, the way that the Germans really did it based on the research that I had from school. It was like they actually, I think it was from a guy named DeLorem. You can double check me on on his research, but it was actually heaviest the first set and the weight got lighter because you were getting more and more fatigued.
Right.
But the whole premise is accruing a lot of volume, doing difficult things. 10 sets of 10 is 100 reps.
Yep.
And now they came up the problem with what the NSCA and the CSCCA came up with was it was a little too black and white where they're like, okay, your IRV internal rate of volume or whatever was not supposed to reach more than 30. So they would say if you're going to do 10 by 10, you can't have more than 30% of somebody's one rep max on it because 10 times 10 is 100 times 0.3 is 30. That's where you get it. And that is
Interesting.
safe. But the problem that I have with that is if you go 5 sets of 8
Yeah.
at 70%, that's 40 times
Wait,
0.7. That's still like that's 28. That's safe, but that'll wreck you too. So
yeah.
it's like it's all about time and place. So you can't just blindly follow that. My long-winded way of it is if you did the 10 by 10 and you didn't do the sled pushes and you also did it in a way where you were building up to it, no issue. right? Like if you're, and we have the benefit of hindsight with all of that, but if you go, 4 sets of 10, 6 sets of 10, and you're building into it,
Yeah.
just like with any of these, if you did want to do any of those mat drills or those puke sessions, okay, time and place to put, that's icing on the cake. That is not the true cake of your training, but you don't eat cake without icing. Yes, giving athletes some of that suck is good. Just be smarter about when you give it to them. Because I've been a part of programs where we did the 100 reps and it was least amount of sets possible. Instead of just 10 by 10, it was 4 sets of 25. One time,
Can you give me the exact workout that they did when they got the Rhabdo? Do you know it?
I believe it was 10 by 10 at 50% of your 1 rep back squat.
Okay. Because what I've heard was, and it pretty much checks out because most guys are, especially in Division I college football, most guys are back squatting more than 2x their body weight.
Yeah.
But I've heard it was like body weight back squat, not like your body weight, but like on the bar is what you weigh. So I'm currently 205, a little fluffy. Don't judge. We're in strength season, by the way. Total interjection here, tangent. Your boy is as strong as I've ever been. And
Huh.
I know you'd be proud of me. I've set
I am proud of you for that.
3 PRs in the last 2 weeks on major lifts.
Yeah, let's say what lift?
Deadlift, snatch, and power clean.
Snatch, truly like from the floor, low catch your
From the floor,
Yep.
no straps, 280.
Oh wow.
Powered cleaned 350 from the
Jeez.
floor. Deadlifted 480.
Okay.
I've never taught, and those aren't, the snatch is definitely super impressive. The power clean is, it's very impressive for like a normal person, for college athletes. Like a lot of people power clean 350. The deadlift is not impressive at all. But for me, I'm talking like when I walked out of Iowa, I couldn't straight bar dead 405. So
Yeah,
I
you
put
were
up,
in your double overhand, just clean grip deadlifting it, right?
yep. So, but anyway, the I've heard that it was body weight back squat. So like I would have had 205 on the bar, and it was just 100 reps in as few sets as you could possibly do it. That was what I thought it was. And so what was happening was, the way James Morris described it to me was, God, I'm pretty sure this is
I
what he
got
said.
this thing right here. I
Okay.
literally have the lift guard that says Rhabdo return. So I can look, like you keep talking.
Okay.
I've got it here.
So for those who haven't listened to the James Morris episode, this is the way he described it. Again, this was him describing it over a decade after it had happened. So there may be some memory loss with him too. Not that James isn't an extremely intelligent guy. He did take a lot of hits to the head though. So who knows? We could be somewhere in between. But he described it as, you had your body weight on the bar. You
Wrong.
found,
It's not.
okay.
It's not.
So
It's
okay.
not.
And then you just chunked out as many as you could. And so James hit like a set of like 25 or something, just to open up the workout. And then the idea was like, you were trying to kind of go back and forth and match sets with your partner until it got
Holy cow.
smaller and smaller, to where it's like, okay, you open up a 25, your partner goes, you take a little bit of rest, you get back under, you go for another 15 to 20, and you just keep chunking it out until you get to 100 reps. That is what my idea was
He's
of
wrong.
it. Okay,
James is wrong.
you tell me.
So and here's the best part. This is why you gotta like washed up walk-on fans. You gotta love this because you're getting this straight from the horse's mouth, because I
Yeah,
have
I love that you
everything.
have it, and it literally says Rhabdo return on it.
So yeah, because and first of all, you want to talk about dumb things? Iowa, please stop printing on lift cards. The fact that you guys print on lift cards in 2025,
Yeah,
stop it. You
make
got to
make
get,
yeah, make it
please,
electronic.
please get it there. But the tabs are labeled it. So the exact thing, I'm going to look it up right now.
I'm
You
gonna do
talk.
the workout today and get Rhabdo.
Okay, you won't because you're tough. So
Well, I don't know if that's there's plenty of tough guys that were doing that workout. I won't, because I'm currently not detrained.
yeah, it was just 50%. It was 50% of your
50%
1 rep
of your
max
max
for 100 reps.
in
And
specific sets, or as big a sets as
no,
you
it
want.
just says, so what the card says is back squat, and it's like its own exercise. So
Yeah.
that's why there was no parent.
Yep.
And it was just 50% for 100 reps. And I really like in it, I truly, in my heart of hearts, I do believe that doing things like this is good for the soul.
I agree.
I do. And but like doing it the minute you come back,
Horribly.
dangerous, because as you know, you have to assume that athletes did nothing.
Yeah.
And you have to operate, and this is a quote from Mike Boyle, you have to operate from the position of a lawyer. And it's hard to defend that. You can say, we told the kids, they knew, right? And that does help you. And maybe that was the case, right? It was like, hey, we're doing this. Be ready for it. Like, and so that does help them, and so that, but like doing that really difficult thing, like there is some really good like again, think about the bonding, you and me, Kluve, hey, we're under the bar, go get it,
Yeah.
bro, you go, like, come on now.
It would
Like
be
the
such a
number
sick
of
workout.
suck things that I've done
Yeah.
at CrossFit or just normal lifts, like it bonds you. So let's not act like it doesn't do that. But the reason that James probably thought it was that is like I was looking at somebody's lift card here where 50% of their back squat was actually their body weight, which is why they thought that.
Which is about like I actually right now, it might be just a little more, but mine's very close. Like
Correct.
my 50%, I squat about 2x exactly.
The stronger you are, respective to your body weight, that's going to be the case.
And so it was worse for a lot of guys than it was
The
for
skill
others.
guys, like the linemen, probably had it easier. Because think about this: if
Yeah.
let's say I'm a 300-pound lineman and I have to do 50%, but I actually squat 500, I'm only doing 250.
Yeah.
Now, you
Whereas some of
might do
those
more reps, and that's where the reps break you down, and you have the muscle degradation, and you have the protein leaking out. And again, problem,
you think
but
about a
it's
guy like Josh Jackson though.
Josh, that would have been hard. Or a guy like, a guy like back then, Pat Anger, a guy like Brady Ross, who's a 600, 700-pound squatter, right? Like that's a lot of weight.
That's bad.
Which also another silly thing is how they calculate bands, even when Nick and I gave them the answer on how to fix bands. So like that's just, you have to take into account somebody's true 1RM, the amount of band tension, their height. Like that's something that needs to change.
So
But with response to the return. So what they did after everybody got back, they took everybody's max, and I think I'll figure out exactly. I think they cut everybody's maxes by like 70%.
oh God. It's so clearly I didn't want to make this all about the Rhabdo, but it is a fun conversation that we've never really hashed out before. That is stuff like that is tough. And I think it falls into one specifically is tough guy workouts or like I suck workouts like coach is kind of describing it as, where there is definitely a training component to it. Part of it is, yes, this is physiologically going to create an adaptation in your body that is helpful towards getting stronger or faster or bigger, whatever. But there's a large mental component to it as well, where the intention from the staff who is programming the workout, who is putting that on the day's agenda, is part of this is a culture building thing. We are trying to elicit something mentally. We are trying to create real struggle, and that is probably not probably, it is absolutely not the best time to do that when guys are coming off of one of those transition periods, which for the Iowa guys, the biggest one you have is like that 3 weeks right at the end of the spring.
Yeah. Or
um
even after, if you don't make a bowl game, which is, I think was or like
True.
not playing well in a bowl game. And like, let's also shout out the fact of like, let's like anything else. Akir, same guy. He said if you can bring up if you have a complaint without a suggestion, you're an oxygen thief. So I'm not here to be an oxygen thief and be
Mm,
like, oh, they shouldn't have done. Like, listen, yeah, in hindsight, we know that now, but let's also go back in time to 2011. There was
right.
not as much research going on about these things. There was not as much of that stuff,
Yeah,
right?
we've come a long way in
We've
15
come a long
years.
way. So back in 2011, it wasn't uncommon to do this. Like I said, in 2012, I witnessed we did a 2, a 3, a 5, and a 10. So for those at home, 2 plus 3 is 5, plus 5 is 10, plus 10 is 20. We did that 5 times, so it's less boring to get to 100 reps on a squat,
Mm,
right? So I saw that in 2012. I saw in 2011 a least amount of sets possible back squat, a 4 sets of 25. Go back in time to when it was, and that was not uncommon. So we have to take a step back. And then also shout out to KF, shout out to the state of Iowa for not getting rid of Coach Doyle in
mm,
that
yeah,
and working with him through that,
yeah,
and not just a dismissive cancel culture. And think about how much better everything has come because of that.
sure.
Now there's a better protocol for when athletes first get in that GPP phase, which the GPP phase can be tweaked in slide boards. Like, let's get rid of those. But there has been good that has come out of it.
Yeah,
So shout out to Iowa and KF. And that was the thing about Coach Doyle. He would always be trying to innovate and improve and do things. So yeah, like
Yeah.
that's how iThlete came about. That's how GPS came about. So there was good that came out of it. And I don't know the exact situations with how the NSCA attacked, like came after them and tried to make any, like, I don't know those details. And so that's where it's like, all right, shame on you for, okay, we should have been smarter, but also shame on you. Like, hey, let's stop. Like, don't completely come after me. And like, let's figure this out together.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents.
Yeah. Definitely a prime example. I think shifting into one of the other biggest things, and this is similar, kind of, but not really. It's like maybe the dumbest thing in strength conditioning, and this is across all sports because it is sport specific, is conditioning. And this goes back to kind of the Wisconsin video, conditioning workouts that don't that aren't training the right systems. Um, for example, uh, there are probably still hundreds of high schools across the country that are running gassers.
Hundreds of
Um,
college programs. What are you talking about?
Still,
Bro,
colleges are still doing like 300-yard gassers.
300-yard shuttles, but then just gassers where it's like an over and back, yeah,
Sure, or
or
like yeah.
110s. Heck yeah,
Okay.
bro.
Well,
It's a problem. That's what I'm saying. There's a problem.
so why is that an issue, right? Well, why is it being programmed in the first place? I think it's, you can talk to this coach, but I think it's just like, well, it's what they used to do. It's what we've always done. And I personally don't know what is this? This is a, if it ain't broke, break it. If it ain't broke, break it. Okay. I like that. Yes, I mean, and that's what that stuff needs. I don't know if those coaches are scared or they can't think for themselves or they are worried that like, oh, this is the way we've always done it. So if I change something, then it's going to be on me if something doesn't go well. But like offensive linemen running 300-yard shuttles, what are we doing?
They do it in the NFL with the Ravens.
I know they do because we had somebody on the podcast who was like, "Yeah, I was training for my conditioning test when we got
Yonda
back."
was. We used to have to stop doing football specific work with Yonda to get him ready to pass his test. Could you think
How
about that?
fucking dumb is that?
Everybody listen to the statement that I just made.
I mean, 300 yards? That's like the total of what the
And again, here in the spirit of not being an oxygen thief, and again, to shout out Kier Wyndham Flat, the guy that started Strength Coach Network, he found and created a better conditioning test for football, and you can also apply it across sports. So he called it the Tribe test because he worked at William and Mary, and they were the Tribe. And the test
It's kind of
was
sick.
12 reps of a 5-second all-out sprint with one change in direction. You have 25-second rest, so it's a rolling 30 seconds, 12 reps. But the best part about it, Kluver, is you can measure it. So whistle blows, you run, and it's a 20-yard is where you're going to change direction. Everybody knows.
Okay.
So at the 20-yard line, you hit it with your right foot, not your hand. We've talked about the biodynamics of that before.
Yep.
Hit it with the foot. You come back and you run. At the 5-minute mark, there's a coach watching where you return. So if you, Kluver, run 20 yards, come back and you get to the 6, you ran 26 yards. I write down 26. Now you walk back to the line as the clock's resetting. Rep 2, you've got to hit left leg. If you hit with the right leg, you lose a yard, penalty because you did it wrong. If you jump off sides, lose a yard, penalty because you did it wrong. Now I can measure, hey, you got 26 again. Cool. 26 across the board. I can then at the end of the 12 reps, did you fall off from rep 1 to rep 12? How far did you fall off? I can calculate your total volume. So if you did 26 the whole time, now the next time we run it, if you did whatever, that's 260 plus another 26, that's 52. So I think that's 312.
312.
Yeah. So if I do 312, and then let's say the next time you're up at 330, I can now percentagely, instead of again pass fail, I can tell the sport coaches, hey, you know what? Tyler Kluver is up in his conditioning by 8%.
Yeah. Damn, I love that.
You bring in a new athlete, right? A new athlete. And now I say, oh, hey, you guys think he's this, that, or the third. Well, guess what? He's a skill player that has the conditioning of the average lineman on our team. Okay.
Wow.
So he created the Tribe test, 12 reps, ton of suck. Anybody wants to do it, you go try it at home.
Yeah,
5
dude,
seconds on,
every 30 seconds.
every
That's
30 seconds for 6 minutes. So it's a short test. Now, What another coach did is they took that and they said, okay, well, football is alactic aerobic, meaning we do some work, we sit down and we rest and repeat. They said, we're going to do 4 sets of 4 reps. So now you can compare first quarter to second quarter to third quarter to fourth quarter. How do you perform? What's your decrement? And then you have a little bit of rest in between your reps, just like series in football. So you can
Yeah.
see that decrement because, again, now to the average listener, it allows you to attack the energy system. So if I can come out of the gate hot
Yup.
and I'm
Yup.
gassed at the end, I need to work on my aerobic capacity. If I'm even the whole time, I need to work on my ability to explode and go faster.
Yeah.
So it gives you better prescription. And then what we did at Towson, I made it longer. And this was to, again, fall in line with the rules from the NSCA, talking about you're not supposed to do more than 50% of your highest volume of conditioning the first week back. So what
Mm.
we did is we did a set of 3, took a 2-minute break, a set of 5, took a 2-minute break, another set of 5, 2-minute break, a set of 10. So it's 23 reps. What I could do with any athlete at any time then is I could do 10 reps day one on their assessment.
Yup.
So that way it was 50% of the highest volume that they would do. It was safe. We got to see how the athletes could perform in ideal situations, a 3 and out, average of 5, because typical plays in a
Yup.
series is 5. And then kind of a worst case scenario, 10. How much could they endure and do some suck? And so that's what we did. And that's how I adopted it. And we've talked about it on Strength Coach Network.
Dude,
There's a YouTube video on it of how to like, so that's the whole thing of what we're trying to do at Strength Coach Network is
bro,
educate coaches on doing things better.
that's such a good fucking test.
And
Like, I'm
now
just
think, you know what other athletes, coaches started to do? Hey, how can I apply this with softball? Okay, what if I do 7 sets of 3, like 7 innings, and now we've got to win the game and like now they can do it like that.
yeah, you can
Lacrosse
you
coaches,
yeah, I mean, you can man, there's so many there's enough variables in there to change it to be sport specific, but, like, the limiter is just it's all out every effort.
correct.
So you get to see and not only does that allow you to do it across sports, but it allows you within the sport to still go in that semi-skill line range. Because you're not going to compare. Well, you are going to compare. You could say, like, holy shit, we got a receiver who's only getting as far as a lineman. That's not good.
Correct.
But you can also see, like, okay, what's our top lineman putting out? Are they at 350 yards? Are they pushing 400 yards? Or, I don't know what the numbers
Whatever
are.
it is. Yeah, exactly.
Man, that's such a good test. And the best part about it is the sport specific of it. You can mess with the rest. You can mess with how many sets or reps you put in a set because, like you said, the 3, the 5, the 10, man, that is so copy and paste of what an actual series would look like for a guy on the field.
And when the GPS, when I downloaded it, it was scary to see how much it looked like part of a game with respect to the fact of you're not getting the high speed yardage because you're contained to just running. Like
Yeah.
you're going to run 20 yards and change direction. You're really accelerating through maybe 15. So you're not reaching
Yeah.
your truest, highest maximum velocity. So you're changing directions. And Kier also created it because he talked about the biodynamics, the biomotor, and the bioenergetics. So the biodynamics, the fact of there's only one change in direction really in football, maybe some twos.
Yeah.
But if you got all these people making so many changes in direction, they're going to get tackled from the backside if they're a running back.
Yeah.
So it matches that. The energy system requirement of 5 seconds all out work, 25 seconds rest, that matches closer to football versus a 300-yard shuttle where it's 60 seconds of work and maybe 3 minutes of rest. And then the actual biomotor of where you're running on your feet instead of, pushing a sled or doing these other things, which
Punching a bag.
correct. And you could push a sled like so these programs that have tons of money and you
A
want to
sled
use
would
your
be sick.
lineman instead, you just do a sled push with the lineman. And now you
Oh,
want to
that
make
would
it
be
even
such a
better.
bro.
You
That
make it better where you get coach integration. So this is what we did at Towson. I brought the position coaches were offered, but then they gave it to their QCs and the GAs. I had the defensive GAs measuring for the offensive players. So that way they wouldn't like give it to their guy,
yeah,
like, oh,
sure,
he
sure.
got it.
Yeah.
But then it also just caused crossover to make sure that the younger GAs knew who the offensive players were. So I could have a defensive GA grading a wide receiver to make sure, like, and the rule, and I just explained it to everybody was, which is obviously a limiting factor of like, hey, you're going to mark where their front foot is. So if it's
Yep.
like in between the hash, we're going to go to the back hash because they
Yep.
didn't get there.
Yep.
But you create some of these certain, is it perfect? No, but it gets us a lot closer. And like we brought a skill player in I was like, "Hey, Rob, like this skill player, his conditioning level is actually worse than the average lineman." He's like, "Go tell that kid that and explain it to him that that's why he's with you the first 3 days of camp." Or we brought in an FBS transfer, and I was like, "Hey, he couldn't complete the conditioning test, and that puts him at." So when I added his number up, I was like, "You could only do 4 out of the 10." It's like, so he mathematically is at 40% conditioning of his peers. So that just
No.
speaks volumes. And the coaches can be like, instead of like, "Oh, coach doesn't like me." No, you literally are
No.
60%
Yeah.
worse and you're a liability.
Man, the data on that is so sick too, because I love, like, looking at a total volume of what you're capable of.
Yep.
Like, I mean, this is very there's a lot of, like, when you look at the data here, people hate to hear it, and I know you said it earlier, it made my heart happy. It's like, "Why don't we take some stuff from CrossFit?" This is CrossFit-ish when you're looking at, like, you're gonna do box jumps or, maybe a bad example, people
No,
don't.
burpee box jumps suck. You want to talk about giving somebody some suck? Oh my gosh, burpee box jumps suck. Or make somebody do box step ups holding the dumbbell on their shoulders. You want
Yeah,
to talk about getting tough?
yeah,
Ugh.
yeah, yeah. Box step overs, calorie row, burpees, or something like that. And you're just gonna do 10, and 10 in an AMRAP format for 10 minutes. You put somebody through that, they get 100 or 150 reps. You train for 2 weeks or 4 weeks. You come back again, you give them the exact same test. Oh, now they did 200 reps. You start to see how much of a volume percentage they can add on to the top of that max capacity. Same thing. What
You want to
were
talk about intent too? Because we were doing something one day. I forget what the whole workout was, but one of the things was rowing 500 calories. And I was just kind of chilling. Let's call it what it is. I was like
Yeah,
80% ish, like,
yeah.
okay, this is easy. Like, I know I'm gonna get this thing done right around 140. I'm not trying. Like, it's just I'm going, right? And I see somebody next to me like using me as their gauge to
Mm.
like kind of, I was like, well, this is not gonna happen. You're not gonna beat me.
You were just doing, like, one 500-meter row?
Yeah, as part like that was the
Oh,
first
oh,
thing
okay.
before we did other things, and then
Sure.
we were gonna end it. It was row, some some muscle ups, some double unders, and
Okay.
some V ups.
So it was like
That,
a
and
row
then
it was a little row buy-in
it
then.
was a row. It was a row buy in, do exercises, 3 rounds, finish with a buy out.
Ooh.
And the guy next to me was like kind of using me as a pace to like maybe
Yeah,
try to beat me. And I
yeah.
was like, "You're not going to beat me." And in that moment, I said, "This is why CrossFit works,
Yep.
because you can get people to train harder for the simple fact that you can look at somebody and be like, 'Well, I'm better than you. Like I'm not going to let you do that.'"
Yeah,
And I was like, and there it is, folks.
yeah. It gets CrossFit did a really good thing in bridging the gap of that competitiveness that you do find in, like, those man, I think about like, the ground start 5-10-5s we used to do,
Oh yeah.
or the ground start, straight 10s or whatever it
The
used to be.
chasers. Yeah. Any of that stuff.
That sort of, like, ultimate competitive fire that got everybody on the team going.
Hmm.
CrossFit found a way in many different, and there's so much stuff you can do, right?
You're
Um,
literally limited by your imagination.
yeah, it just gave the average person a way to tap into that, and, everybody's competitive.
Correct.
You just have to find it. Fun stuff. So, are there any other before I move on to my last thing, are there any other, s sports that do a specific conditioning drill or test that you can think of right off the top of your head where you're like, "This is so fucking stupid for this sport?"
The beep
Like,
test needs to get better. Like soccer usually does the beep test, and it's like
I've seen a lot of TikToks of, like, girls soccer
mm,
teams doing the beep test,
just
yeah.
go. But shout out to Simpson College. So Simpson College here in town, and I'm training one of their athletes. They've gone away from the beep test and they use the tribe test. They just did a modified version of the tribe
Wow.
test for what works for them.
And do they
So
just do I I'm already starting, like, my programming brain is starting to think like, "Damn, you could do some change of direction stuff with some cones instead of doing a." You could even do it with the ball. You could dribble and do it if you wanted to, like, make it really sport specific. Like, you could do so many things with that you said Kier created that?
yep, Kier
What
Wenham Flat.
a
He was the one
fucking
that created it.
genius. Um, Unbelievable. I think I'm gonna wrap it up with probably the dumbest thing in all of strength conditioning, and that is the tough guy strength coach prototype.
Oh my gosh. Or like, yeah.
The
The
first
guy
thing that the first thing that comes to mind is the Northwestern guy who wore medium shirts, and it's fucking 38 degrees and he's chest bumping guys off the bus when they get to the stadium. And
Yep.
why do you think that that's a thing? Where does that come from?
comes from Scott Cochran again, where people were trying to be Scott. So for those that don't know, Scott Cochran is now a head football coach down in Georgia, I think Division 2, maybe Division 3. He left Alabama as the head strength coach to go be a special teams coordinator at Georgia. He's won a lot. But here's the thing about Scott Cochran. When you go full circle again, and I go back to the 2000 and maybe 12 or 2014 CSCCA conference I went to, Scott Cochran in person and all the time would say, "These athletes are Bentleys. I'm just putting spinners on you." Now he would go, "Yeah, a Bentley. I'm just putting spinners on you."
Yeah,
Right. Like,
his
so he,
his his accent is crazy. I think the video that I just recently saw of him is like, "You need to squat lower." Like,
now would caveat all of this. This was a man that was a literal drug and alcohol addict who has come out and said, like, I
really?
was popping 25 perks a day.
Whew.
So like he had some demons that he
He
was
came from
battling.
some shit, yeah.
And so my point is now you've got coaches that are copying his words without understanding his background and his demons that he was battling. The fact that he was working with literally the best athletes in the world.
Yeah.
And now they just want to yell and do these things where, again, it could be sport coaches that want them to do that. KF doesn't want that.
No.
Doyle didn't. Doyle used to tell us, "Hey, you want to get paid like a coordinator, dress and act like a coordinator." Right.
Yeah.
And so there's sport coaches that do that, but I mean, some of them that some strength coaches, they do it because it's a matrix. The sport coach wants them to do it, they do it. You have sport coaches that want them to do it, and strength coaches won't do it. Some strength coaches, that's just who they are, and they're douches, and that's to the core, that's who they
Yeah.
are, right?
Yeah.
Like they just truly love themselves. Some of me, like, yeah, you know what I mean?
There's just like the gym bro who's like, I'm not good at anything else, so I'm gonna be a strength coach." And they lift themselves and they have big biceps and a big chest because they bench and curl a lot. And they're
And
like,
it just does our field a disservice because, like, again, think about like this, within the same thing, the get back coach. Okay, you
"Oh
want to
yeah,
let me give you a couple names that most strength coaches don't know, and most of our listeners won't know. You'll know the names of the other teams. Mike Wojcik, you don't know that name. Moses Cabrera, you don't know that name. Mike Wojcik won 3 Super Bowls with the New England Patriots in their dynasty, won 3 Super Bowls with the Dallas Cowboys in their dynasty. You know those two names.
yeah,
Moses Cabrera, 3 Super Bowls with the New England Patriots, down in North Carolina with Bill Belichick. They don't do any of those things. They just get their athletes big and strong and fast and then let the chips fall where it lies.
yeah." I eh, I don't. I think it really just comes from like an ego thing of like, and I do think to them they're just they're like, yeah, I'm just having fun with it. I'm trying to hype the guys up. But I think it's like, one, with social media nowadays, you're gonna get absolutely blasted. Like, it is going to shed a negative light on, you immediately become like douche bro, like
Yep.
guy who's doing too much. It's a distraction, and I don't know if they think it actually like makes them tougher if they're doing that kind of shit. But like, um,
I think they do. Because when I remember one time we were playing at Nebraska, it was cold. I think it was the 16, it was 17. Believe it was 17. We played there. And we talked about it as a staff because like I literally was wearing a winter coat. And
yeah,
I will always remember saying this to the guys at Taos, and they're like, "Coach, you're not supposed to be wearing a coat." I said, "Why?" They're like, "Well, you're supposed to teach us that's not." I said, "Listen, the minute I said, the minute that my clothing adds points to us or takes points away from the opponents, I'll
yeah,
amen.
yep,
Until that time, your boy's gonna be warmer.
yeah.
Like I'm gonna be comfortable."
Yeah, because here's what happens, like, when Coach Lima gets frostbite and he has to get fucking like,
Now the medical team's taking care of me.
yeah, and now there's no head of the strength, like, now everybody has to jump up a roll and the people are scattering. How's that gonna do for us winning a game on Saturday? Like, that's gonna be really good. So,
Yeah, that needs to go away. And like I said, I just think that there hasn't been enough positive voices sending it, which is why, like, my mission, I've Moses is coming on the show again either today or tomorrow. So like I just got to shed positive light to let everybody know.
I think it's, I think it's, like, there's a lot of ego. There's a lot, like,
In
every
athletics, yeah.
yeah. I mean, it just is, it's a natural thing, like, when you are, I mean, sports is, like, barbaric. It's like,
Okay, but within that, did you watch Drake's fight?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, who's his coach?
I mean, I don't know,
Who cornered him is my question.
Like Bader and Sully Colley, like professional fighters, and then a
In
guy that
between rounds,
yeah.
were they losing their mind or were they talking to him?
Yeah, just talking, I think.
Correct. And so why has American football got this so wrong? And this light went on to me when I was at American Muay Thai in Maryland getting ready for my fights.
Yeah.
My coach in between rounds, when we were live sparring, it was, hey, catch your breath.
Yeah.
You have 60 seconds to calm down, and then you have to just talk to them. And that is the most barbaric sport.
Yeah.
So again, like I just don't understand how American football has gotten so out of whack.
I think it's just the again, going back to a disconnect of like what you think works and like
Mm,
I have to I have to have these guys teed up versus what actually is the most beneficial and will get them to elicit the best performance. And that is probably like calming your central nervous system, breathing, heart rate control, like all these different stuff. Um, yeah, and there's just a lot of like I think you're just gonna get that in football. That's just like the tough guy thing. I don't know. The whole ego thing is just a thing where like when you figure out that I DeMarco and you are really great examples. Like when you take the ego out of it, whether it's programming or how you interact with your athletes or how you coach your other coaches, it makes everything so much better.
I
Um,
appreciate that, and that's what I tried to do, and 2 stories on that, like, back to the money stuff, I used to slide my interns and assistants, like, cash and just be like, "Hey, thank you," like,
yeah,
not all the time, and then back to the ego thing, like, a guy that comes to my mind is AJ Epinesa. Epinesa was one of the most laid back humans
yeah,
ever. Could be sitting on the bench telling a joke,
yeah,
and then, "Oh, word, defense is up. Oh, strip sack." Like,
yeah.
Drew Watt, same
yeah.
thing.
Turn
Drew
it
Watt
on.
could go make like, I'm sure he probably made a stupid joke on the sidelines of that Wisconsin game in
Yeah,
2015,
yeah,
and then goes out there and hits a strip sack to go and help get us the ball back in that huge game.
yeah.
Like
Great,
people
great
are just
example.
different.
Yeah, 0 to 100 and you don't need there's no there's no necessity for this, like, external fake fuel on the fire. Like, they can spark the fire when they need to, so, um, good episode, man. This was fun. Haven't done one in a while, so, we I think this one comes out not next Monday, but the Monday after that. We're closing in Walk On Army on the season. It is at this point, it's the back half of July when this thing debuts. August is camp, and then we are into Fry Fest. Come see us at Fry Fest this year, and then the season will begin. And you'll be hearing more from Coach Lima, hopefully, when we get there. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. Until then, peace.